I think for me, when I think about the dark times, the thing that I didn't realize the first few dark times, like the dot-com bubble, I'm like the whole world is over. My life is over, the world is over, my business is dead. No, I woke up and said, I'm not going to just lay down and let the world run over me. I'm going to figure out a way to pivot and survive.
I can't be more grateful and thrilled to have Andrew Smith on the podcast today. Just by way of introduction, Andrew Smith is a family first entrepreneur. I've been inspired by Andrew. He's lived an amazing life. He's been married for 25 years. He's a proud dad of two kids and has a daughter-in-law. And Andrew, you've built a wonderful life, and you've built and exited tech companies, you shifted into restaurants, and have just played a huge role, I think, in the restaurant space. And since then, you've helped develop and acquire and operate more than 475 restaurants, according restaurants across a dozen states, generating over 2.5 billion in sales and employing more than 40,000 people. Today, he is the co-founder, managing partner of Savory Fund, who oversees more than 750 million in assets, with two $100 million funds already closed and $200 million fund three underway. Andrew, like I mentioned prior, I'm inspired by you as a father, as a husband, and I'm just super stoked to have you on. How you doing today, man?
So good. That makes my sound like my life has just been all straight and up to the right, which in a lot of ways, Brian, it feels like it has been that way. You know, I always tell people when you look at the kind of the up and to the right entrepreneurs, if you zoom up on that up and to the right trajectory, as you would feel too, Brian, it feels like it goes like this though, right?
Yeah.
So many peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, until you kind of look back and you're like, wow, I've really grown through all of that. So it
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight. It hasn't happened overnight for me either. But yeah, I'm doing great though.
Good, man. Well, I think what's really unique about your story, that as I was learning more about you, is you, correct me if I'm wrong, moved from Chicago to Utah, and you had the opportunity to start three different types of tech companies in different industries, and you sold all three of those. I think the word entrepreneur, it's so easy for people to label themselves that. It's easy to start a business, to start a website. We have AI. I'm curious, like when you look back, what skill sets do you feel like you developed, or what was your mindset? Like, what put you in a position to not only start a software company and sell one, but replicate that over time? Like, what can our listeners learn about some of those, that track record?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Brian, because none of it was planned. So I was going to school. I was born and raised in Chicago. I moved out here. I had some cousins out here in Utah, and so we would come visit during summers. And so I liked Utah. My dad was a dean at Northwestern, and so I was like, I can't be out here in Dean Smith School.
Yeah.
Would know that. So I thought I'd come out here and be where other family members were, and went to school. And I was opportunistic. I was a business major, business finance. I had a roommate that was a computer science engineer. Came home one day and said, what if you could take the Jaguar commercial we're looking at on TV right now, the box TV, and put that on the internet? And mind you, this is 1998, so the internet had just come out a few years prior. There was no streaming media, there's no smartphones, there's none of that. And I'm like, if you could do that, that would be super dope. Well, 3 months later, he came home that night and he opened up his laptop that was like this thick and said, watch this. And he showed me that commercial that they had created a codec and put it on the internet. I'm like, wow, that is amazing. Well, what does a computer science engineer need? Well, he needs the courage to go and then call Jaguar like I did 400 times until they finally picked up and said, what do you have? And I'm like, I got something to show you. And I sent it to him, and I remember them looking at it while I was on the phone with the cord that was to the wall. And I remember hearing them listen to it, and they're like, "Wait a second, what is this?" And I said, "It's your commercial on the internet." They're like, "Well, we know what we're seeing. How did you do this?" I'm like, "Well, that's our technology." And they said, "Well, how much for it?" I remember Brian, I was like, I was some stupid college kid. I don't know. And I'm just like, 125,000. I mean, that's a mind-boggling number in 1998. And they're like, great. Yeah, we'll do it. I'm like, we're rich. Like in my mind, I'm like, we're rich. We just struck gold. And then they responded with, well, no, how many times do we get to use it? And I didn't know what SaaS was, or service as a software, or, having someone use it an amount of impressions. I didn't know anything. And I'm like, wait a second, that's just to use it? And they're like, well, yeah, how many impressions do we get? I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. I'm like, we'll get back to you. So I use professors and friends of mine and others to say, what do I do? And they're like, you have a business. So we got to structure an entity. And so I got advice from people that had done it. And me and my roommate was like, yeah, let's start this. And so we started one of the first streaming media companies, filed patents, got it. And we just went out and started shooting fish in a barrel. We built a commercial for BYU, landed them, Mercedes landed them, Citibank landed them, American Express landed them. And so you really kind of just say, I'm going to just try something because I see a need or I see an opportunity and I'm just going to give it hell. And after a while, it's like, wow, we had a full company, 50 employees, venture backing. I mean, it was like, what is going on? This is not my life. This is not something I planned for. I ended up graduating while I was doing my first company, married Shauna, my wife. We had our first baby, and my son, Christian. So life was very complex and fun. But then this thing in 2002 happened when we were about pre-IPO. We were thinking about going IPO with some of our investors, and the dot-com bubble hit. And talk about a young entrepreneur that I was. I was 26 years old, new father. I was on top of the world. In my mind, I'm like, I'm the kingpin. I know everything because things were going really well. And the dot-com bubble pulled the rug out from underneath a lot of companies, including ours. The difference was I actually had a company that had some disciplined numbers. We had revenues and we survived it. And that's rule number one, which is if the market is ever going to shift on you, make sure that your business is sound, that you have sound business principles and you can survive any tumultuous time. And we did. We didn't get public like we thought, but then about 8 months later, after the dot-com bubble had burst, we actually had one of our competitors call and say, we think we should consolidate. Well, they had gone public a few years prior for about 1.5 billion. And so there was an offer on the table, and I'm like, this is not as good as it would have been if I would have gone public, but it's still amazing. I'm 26 years old. And so I ended up selling the business, and I was now a 26-year-old VP of sales of a public company. I'm like, this is not my life. I mean, I can't believe this is what's happening. So I'm reporting to the street at 26 years old. And after 3 quarters of reporting, I'm like, I just don't love this. It's not entrepreneurial enough for me. Well, I had this idea. And when you asked me that question, I'm going to tell you my first jump and what my advice to everybody would be as far as how do you see opportunity? How do you build one after another? I remember getting my money that I had given to me from my sale. I'd taken some chips off the table and I had to go give it to a wealth manager. Gave it to a wealth manager and I said, well, can I see where my money is in this market and how this is accruing? And da, da, da. I asked him, can you basically show me on a dashboard that no, doesn't exist? And I'm like, that's stupid. So I built it. Got one of my original tech guys. I'm like, this is my idea. This should be easy to pull in all this data and then give kind of a BI dashboard for wealth managers. Well, I built it. And after we had that kind of going and testing with a couple RIAs, they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, I'm out. So I pieced out of my last company. I resigned, still had some of my stock in the public market. And I went and started my next company because I saw a need. I saw that I could solve it with a pretty simple mousetrap and I went after it. And so when someone says, well, how did you know what to do next? I'm like, I was just living my life and I was seeing something that is an everyday or a common thing that other people would probably do and go, that's stupid. And I knew other people would probably be like, that would be really nice if I could have that as a client. And I thought, if that's not out there, then I'm going to do it. So I built that software. I started selling it to RIAs. We had about 80 RIAs that were signed up for it. I was still signing them up. 2 years in, I had a large RIA in Michigan say, this is spectacular. Can you, number one, come and pitch all of our agents across the nation at this big conference? And I went and did that. And then after that was done, walked off stage, got in a room, and the CEO said, I don't want anybody else to have the software. Can we just buy it from you? And I said, that's not really your option. It's not for sale. And he said, gave me a number. And I'm like, and now it is your option and it's your software. And so I was opportunistic with that as well, sold it to them. And at the same time, Brian, I was building a new home for my family. We got out of kind of the startup home phase and we were building our new home that we were in for 17 years. But it was in Highland and it was this beautiful 7-figure home. And I'm like, we've made it, that's what you think. But I remember the builder, Brian, we were closing on the home and I'm like, so where's my stuff? Like for my home, like how do I get my materials and information on subcontractors and how do I work that appliance? They're like, well, it's stuffed in a drawer there and it's sitting on top of an appliance over here. And if you need anything, call me. I'm like, well, what if you go out of business or you disappear? And they're like, I haven't really thought of that. So I'm like, that's stupid. So another time, it's just like, well, that's dumb. That's a dumb system. Got some of my developer friends that I knew, and we built a system where we indexed everything in the industry from appliances to manufacturing products to building supplies, put it in a database and came to green homes and said, All you have to tell us is that you're building a home for the Smiths, put the address in and start picking all the supplies you put in their home, and we'll have all the data for you. And we'll build a profile that you can hand to them, nice and professional when you close, and it will be online.
Yeah.
Blew builders' minds.
Yeah.
I did it because I saw a need for myself, and I built a whole company out of it. The rest is history. I mean, we started shooting fish in a barrel with that company and signing up local home builders, national home builders, tower builders. Everyone from Donald Trump was my client down to local home builders. We took a very big private equity package of funding and we were off to the races again. So that was kind of the reason why I back to back these opportunities, and where I saw opportunity to sell. Was it exactly how I calculated it? No, it's never perfect how you start something. The end is not necessarily, very rarely is it what you think it's going to be. You just have to be prepared as an entrepreneur just to be ready for anything and pivot with opportunity and pivot with how the tectiles of the earth shift. I mean, I didn't expect the dot-com bubble to happen, but it did. And so what did I do? I had to shift and figure out a different way, and I still had an outcome that was sufficient for me. And so that's what I would tell any entrepreneur is just be ready to shift, pivot, and find opportunities in the margins of something to say, I think I can improve that. And therein lies a business opportunity.
Well, it's a phenomenal story. I mean, there's a lot that we could double click on there. I think
Yeah, a lot.
what I'm really fascinated to learn from you is you obviously had good partners in the sense you had a problem you were solving. You had the technology partners, the developers, but I'm curious, can you walk me through how you developed the ability to have the confidence and sell the idea? And you mentioned fish in a barrel, right? You start with Jaguar cold calling, right? 400 calls. And then now you're leading that company and selling, then starting from nothing to RIAs. Like how did you develop the ability to sell? And what's kind of fundamentally, how do you approach sales in your career today?
Yeah, I think that earlier on, I've always had like this knack for just communicating with individuals, having a personality where it's like, I just like talking to people. It's easy for me, like getting to know them. I'm not the person to sit down next to someone and just say nothing if we're the only two in a room. I'll actually say, hey, what's your name and where are you from? What are you doing? And so it's got to be innate in you to just open your mouth, right? I mean, part of sales is just open your mouth, start talking. And when you start talking, don't start selling. The best salesperson is always going to be compliment a person and also find out something interesting about them in your first 5 minutes, right? 3 minutes, 2 minutes, like just get to know the person. And once that happens, the guard usually drops for me too. If someone says, hey, Brian, like what, who are you? Where do you live? "Oh, I live in Logan. And that's awesome. And I love it up there. Like you just immediately drop your guard as humans. I do too. And then once that happens, to be able to pitch your stuff, doesn't matter what it is. It could be technology, it could be a service, it could be a widget, it could be my restaurant, doesn't matter. Is to just talk to them at a very human to human level. When I was selling my technologies, if I'm talking to a builder, it's like, wouldn't it be so nice if you could dot 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 and just outsource that to someone and give this unbelievable VIP 5-star experience to your homeowner? Give them this beautiful binder with all their stuff in it, give them an online service. If they lose that binder, they can still find it. And you look like just like their hero versus having this rub. And they're like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing, Andrew. I'm like, that's what I do. Let me help you with that. And it was just so casual for me with builders and developers. I did the same thing with Donald Trump, our president right now. Remember getting into a room with him to be able to pitch. And I didn't do this big pitch with a slideshow or anything. I just said, listen, your reputation is important to you. Let me keep that reputation high. And this is my software, and this is what we can do for you and your image and reputation to your clients and your patrons of your condos. And I love it. This is exactly what we need. So you just have to sell it to a way that you would want to hear it and that you would want to buy it. Sometimes people sell things that they wouldn't even buy. I have to feel confident in what I'm selling. I would buy it. Because I think that people know if you're being sincere, and if you're genuine and sincere, people will typically buy your stuff because they actually feel it. It's not something you can fake, right, Brian? Like you can't
Yeah,
fake being sincere. It's
sure.
like saying, I'm so empathetic. It's like you can't say that. You have to show it and people have to feel that.
Yeah.
And I think with sales, it's the same way. For me, I've always just said, I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to go through my sales process with everybody feeling truly genuinely sold on my own product. And if I'm not, I shouldn't be selling it. I shouldn't be even out there selling it to anybody else if I don't believe in
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of value and I appreciate you kind of sharing that. And what a cool story to be in front of Donald Trump.
it.
And I would say I think something unique that I've learned about you is your wife, and I've got to believe it sounds like you married her in your first company. And I've always heard and believed that if you want to be a successful entrepreneur and you want to be married and have kids, your spouse can really make or break that that trajectory and growth. They have to be all in. And so I'm curious. I think a lot of our listeners are from Utah. Utah is very family focused. We're all entrepreneurs in a sense. Are we? I'm curious what kind of advice would you give a young entrepreneur that does want a family but grow a business? How do they navigate that and kind of what? How do they make a good decision on their spouse? I mean, that's pretty broad, but like that's really important, right?
Yeah, it's very important. And listen, my son that used to be a toddler when I started my first business. Now he's a man. He's been married 3 years. I have a daughter-in-law that I think I like her better than my son. I'm just kidding. I love her to death. She's amazing. But at the end of the day, I've told him the same thing, and that is when you pick your spouse, you're picking your partner in life in good, bad, and ugly times. And you need to make sure that as you're dating and courting that person, that is very clear what your idea of a successful partnership, marriage, creating a family, and business or career could look like. Be very clear. And for me, early on, I can't say I was perfect at it. So if anybody's trying to figure it out, I was too. The first couple of years, I'm like, I got to be this die-hard entrepreneur, worked a lot. I was not around for Shauna and Christian early on because I was like, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. As I had my second son, Tobin, and I got a little older. I had my first exit. I realized something, and that is, I feel like this whole thing where people's like, how do you balance, work and personal life, like work and life balance? I'm like, I don't think that that's possible. I actually think it's a myth. I think people that are trying to do that are actually the ones that are having the hardest time in their partnership with their spouse and their family. Let me explain why. If I go to work and it's separate from my family, they don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what I do. If your son goes to school, your daughter goes to school, and someone says, what does your dad Brian do? I don't know. I have no idea what he does. He goes in and gets in this truck and he goes off to an office. I don't know. Does technology or does that's actually pretty dangerous, I think, because your kids have no connection with the parent, right? I found it very interesting with my boys as they were growing up for me to say, this is my business. This is what we as a family are building. So as you can see, they both came together. It's work and life were then one in my mind. And when I would say, oh my gosh, I have to jump on a plane tomorrow morning and fly to Atlanta for this meeting, they wouldn't go, oh, Dad, you got to go. They would do that because they want me around, because they like me around. I like being with them. But they'd say, who are you meeting with? What is the meeting about? Da 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 da. And I'd say, oh, it's this big builder. And if I can land him, it would be this much revenue to the company and I could hire more people and we could provide more jobs. And like, oh, that's exciting. Well, I would go do that meeting and I'd come back and I'd miss a ball game or something like that. And they wouldn't resent me. They wouldn't be mad at me. They'd say, Dad, how was that meeting? Did we get it closed? And just the vernacular coming out of their mouth over their childhood of, did we? How did we do? How was our business? They had nothing to do with any of it, but they felt included, including and most importantly, my wife. So Shauna was always there next to me saying, how do we do? Okay, what do we have to do to pivot? What are the issues we're dealing with as a business? Well, have you thought about this? Well, maybe I would approach it like that. And all the while of all these businesses, Brian, I'm like, holy crap. Like Shauna is like really a strong business person because my ride or die, my go-to all the time was my true partner, not my partners in business, my true partner, which is my spouse, where I could just vent to them and say, this is our thing we're doing. Whether you're in the office or not, this is ours. Help me through this. How should we win? And she felt part of it. And so when she came to me in 2007 and said, Andrew, I feel like I want to do something more than just be a stay-at-home mom. I feel like I have more to give. It was so easy for me to say, anything you want to do. What do you want to do? I got your back like you've had mine. It was so easy because whether she's doing something or I'm doing something or we're in the same business or not in the same business, it didn't matter. We were one, right? And so I would just say about kids, young starting up, your spouse, your partner, whether you're female or male, and you're finding your spouse, it is the single most important decision you're going to make way before a career or business being an entrepreneur. Because if you every time leave the house and they resent what you're doing and they don't feel part of it with you and they want a 9 to 5 person as their spouse, you are in big trouble. That marriage will always suffer. But if you say, I am an entrepreneur, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I have a drive to go out and try and create, but I will always take care of you. Great. That should be good as long as they're on board with you. But do not get into a marriage where they're like, no, I really value you coming home and being at the dinner table at 6 p.m. every single night. And if you can't punch that ticket, you're not my man or you're not my woman. Don't marry that person if you know you can't do that.
Yeah, that's such a cool story, and I love hearing. I've never heard it that way, and I think our listeners are gonna really learn a lot from there. I think that could be a good segue into helping us understand how Shauna kind of saw the vision of Neaters, and you're in your third company. I think you had exited at the time, or you were in the process of. How
Process.
did you go from tech entrepreneur? Shauna gets into Neaters, and then she kind of recruits you, is what I understand. Can you walk through that and why you did that?
It's again, I didn't plan it. I didn't see myself in this industry ever. When I had asked her, I was like, what do you want to do? And she goes, well, we're up in Highland. We lived in Highland, Utah at the time. And she said, we just don't have a lot of good food options up here. I'm like, no, there's nothing actually. And she's like, I think I'm going to open a restaurant. Brian, I would be lying to you if I didn't in my mind go, that's the dumbest idea. You're never going to make money. It's going to fail. Like all of the fallacies that are in most people's minds about the food and beverage industry was in my mind. I was the same way. But I don't have any data to support it. I just thought what we all think, which is they all fail and they don't make money, which we can talk about that today too, because it's actually a true fallacy. But what my response was, Brian, you'd be so proud of me because I responded, Shauna, I think that's a great idea. And I would love to support that because she had supported me. I don't even care if she went and did it and then it did fail. I wanted her to try something because she felt passionate about trying it. And that's another thing about a marriage is that you got to support one another in your convictions, right? Even if it doesn't work out the way the person feels, it's not you're not the judge. If you tried out something, Brian, and we were married and I'm your spouse and it's like, well, I told you not to do that. It's like, what is that resentment? That doesn't help anything. You're a team. You're going to try things and both of you are going to lose and fail along the way. And you're also going to win. So for me, I was like, oh, we'll try it. If it fails, whatever. So that was 2007. And I said, well, what do you want to do? You want to start your own concept or whatever? And she goes, no, I think I want to just go with one that's already been created. And Neater's Bakery and Cafe had been created. It was around for 10 years already. And we'd gone there as patrons. And so I said, well, let's go meet with the founders. Met with the founders in Linden and said, hey, we'd like to put one over here in Highland where we live. And, one of the questions that I asked them then that we'll circle back to, Brian, when we talk about what we've created now, is I said, it's been 10 years. You have 5 of these here in the Utah area, and you have one down in Arizona with a family member. But I said, why don't you have more? The team to build the scale we've never done before. So we don't know the team that we need. And then 2, we've never structured or financed growth, and we don't know how to structure capital like that. It's just not our foray. Not they couldn't have figured it out. It's just not what they knew. And I'm like, I know how to do that. But I can compartmentalize that. I'm like, that's not really something I need to think about right now because I'm the kingpin at my tech company, right? And so I'm like, well, we just want to do one. So we signed a franchise agreement. We were like one of the first franchisees of that system. Bought a piece of land, building the building in 2008. We're having a ton of success at my business, and we're talking about what we're going to do next for sale or IPO or whatever in the following year. Here comes August of 2008. Nobody saw that coming. None of my smart PE friends that were on my board saw it. None of the Fortune 500 CEOs that I had sitting on my board of directors saw it coming. And when the great financial crash or crisis, whichever one you want to call it, was a crash and a crisis, when that hit in August of 2008, it was dark. And I remember going, man, this is like the dot-com bubble all over again. We are extremely correlated to it, which means the market was falling apart and we were starting to fall apart. My business, we had builders going out of business, not paying their bills. And here Shauna is building their first restaurant and it was opening up in October. I'm like, it's going to fail. It is going to fail like everything else is failing. We had plenty of money in the bank. We were just figuring out how to get through it, but it was pretty dark. And she opened up October 2nd of 2008. It crushed it right out the gate. And I just remember a few weeks later driving to my office, passing her store and going, how is that fair? That Shauna picked something that would thrive in the middle of the GFC. And here I'm running a business that's on fire. I have a bunch of smart people around my board table. I have a huge PE firm behind me, and we can't figure out a path forward. Yet she's going in there, high-fiving her team. Everyone's smiling. People are in there having great food, smiling while they're eating. I'm like, wait a second. The fallacy I had in my mind that businesses in that industry are probably just as correlated as any is completely false. The food and beverage industry is not correlated to the markets. So if the market crashes, banks crash, whatever, tech crashes, multiples crash, some other industries will crash. Food and beverage doesn't even care. You wake up in the morning, you're like, well, my business is going to go out of business, but I still got to eat today. So you're still going to go to eat some food, right? And I never made that simplification in my mind. And then the second fallacy I had is they never make money. And I remember come December, end of December, getting Shauna's first P&L from her accountant. And I was like, what the heck is that number at the bottom of the page? And she's like, Andrew, that's called profit. And I was like, no, she said, Andrew, I think that's called profit. I remember her saying that. And I just laughed. I'm like, I've never seen profit before in my entire career. I mean, tech, you just burn money and you raise more. And I was surprised because, and I'll tell you the number because people will probably want to know what was it? What was the number? She made like $115,000 in cash flow in 3 months. Shauna, my wife. And I was like, Shauna, you are a baller businesswoman. And she's like, it's common sense. This is your inputs. This is your output. Got to make a profit. So I was just, okay, it's a fallacy. It's not correlated. You can make great money. We stabilized my business. I sold my business successfully in 2009. It's the middle of 2009. And I had this crossroad moment. Do I stay in tech? Do I stay with this business? Which, by the way, Ryan, that business still around 17 years later. Some of my executives still there running it with the company that acquired us, which is really a testament to what we built. And it's awesome. But I just didn't want to stay with it. So I'd like, do I go build another tech idea, which I had another idea that I wanted to do? Or do I completely pivot? And I just remember that moment. I'm like, maybe I just go give this a shot with Shauna. She's having a lot of fun. I could help her. So I called her up one day and I just said, hey, I'm thinking about either staying here, starting something else, or coming and joining you. But I'm thinking maybe I come join you. What do you think? And she said, great. The dishwasher called out. Why don't you come on in and give it a shot? I'm like, I see what she's trying to do. She's trying to break me. But I went in, I'm like, okay, we'll give that a shot. So I went in there and I was a dishwasher day one. Day two, I was bussing tables and expoing food. And then day three, I'm working on the register. And this little 18-year-old employee of hers is teaching me how to run the register. And I remember the second person in line, Brian, was my old chairman of the board of my tech company. And he was a baller. And it was him and his wife. And he walks up and he's like, Andrew? I said, hello. He goes, what are you doing here? Because I had my crew cap on and like, this is my restaurant with my wife. And it was a humbling moment, but a moment where I'm just like, how cool is that? That I was just like, I don't even care. I'm with my wife now. We're partners and now we're restaurateurs. It was after that moment I sat down with Shauna. I'm like, listen, Shauna, this is an amazing business model. Let's build more. And we went to the founders of Neaters and said, hey, can we build 10 of these? And we built 10 of them over the next couple of years. And it was extremely successful, very cash flow heavy. And I went to him, I said, hey, give me all the rights to your brand and I'll go grow Neaters nationwide. And we ended up building 50 of them over 7 years, she and I. It's a nice little $100+ million business kicking off a tremendous amount of cash. And we just had an absolute blast building it together. But if you fast forward now 17 years that we've been in the industry, I never planned that out. But we've actually done about 550 units now in
Wow.
24 states with a little over $3 billion. If you would have told me back in 2009 or 2010 that this was what we were going to build, I'd say you're crazy. We're not doing that. So this wasn't planned. This was something that has just happened because we don't know anything different than just putting our head down and working.
And there's so much good there. I would say I kind of have two questions. I don't know how you answer them shortly, but like when you're in a dark time as a business owner, how have you kind of internalized that and got through that dark time?
Yeah.
And then while thinking about that, I get the sense that you've been taught really good principles and you don't have a big ego and you have the ability to sell companies and then go wash
Right.
dishes. And so how what can we learn to help us develop that humility and hard work?
Yeah.
So dark and humility in the same one. I don't know if you could kind
Yeah,
of
I can do that. So dark. I will tell you this. I have had many, many dark times in my career. And like I said, at the beginning, I was like, there's a lot of peaks and valleys, a lot of peaks and valleys. Even if you're trending up and having success, a lot of peaks and valleys to your business success. And my wife, Shauna, will always say when she's being interviewed or she's on stage with me, we'll talk and we'll tell people, even younger entrepreneurs or business owners, listen, success doesn't just beget success. And success is not built upon success after success. Success is built upon lots of work, long days, difficulty, failures, tears. It's just hard work, right? Like success is not, well, I'm just successful because my business is successful every day. That just doesn't happen. And everybody that's around me that has had a really successful business and or has exited, they will all say the same thing. Man, that was so hard. It was so hard. Nobody had it easy. And so I think for me, when I think about the dark times, the thing that I didn't realize the first few dark times, like the dot-com bubble, I'm like, the whole world is over. My life is over. The world is over. My business is dead. No, I woke up and said, I'm not going to just lay down and let the world run over me. I'm going to figure out a way to pivot and survive. So I went to survival instincts of, well, maybe I don't have enough money to do that. So cut that. I might have to cut a couple of people, which I hate to do. Everybody does. But you just have to do what it takes to shore up your foundation and make sure that you can take on water a little bit at a time. So I did that, but I never saw through the darkness because I thought the whole world's coming to an end. The reality is, and Brian, you've had this happen in your life too, is, oh my gosh, like 6 months later or 8 months later or 2 months later or even a year later, you're like, remember that time that like it was really dark and really hard and like, it's actually pretty good now? Well, it passed, right? Like all bad times pass. And I don't think that we remember it when we're in them. We're like, it's over. I'm done. I'm going to be bankrupt. I'll be homeless. I'm a loser. Like all those things go through your head as an entrepreneur. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that unless I try really hard. I mean, if that's my ultimate outcome is I'm bankrupt and homeless, then I'll figure it out. I'll get a job. But I think that you have to just think in your mind when it's dark times, what's the worst that can happen? That's what you really got to get your head to. Worst, worst, worst. Well, I could go bankrupt. Okay. What else? Well, I could have to go get a job. Okay. What else? Well, I could, and all of it's like, well, that's just material crap. Are you dead? Are you sick? Do you have your spouse? Do you have your kids? Do your kids still like you? Do you have a good relationship with them? Yes. Well, then you have everything you need. And if you just keep that perspective of, it doesn't matter if it's dark, my life is pretty awesome because I have everything I really need. I don't need this to succeed to be happy. So we just got to make sure that we keep those two separate in our entrepreneurial, crazy egotistical minds. I have to succeed to be a winner. No, you don't. A lot of winners have failed many, many times before they had a win. So, and I've had failures too. But at the end, when I say I've had failures in each of my businesses along the way. Bad decisions, failures, having to really claw back out of the hole that I'm in. So just know that they'll pass. The bad times pass. But on the flip side too, Brian, then things are great. Like we were saying at the very beginning, oh man, life is great. We're both blessed. That time can pass too, right? Like where things are just amazing, that'll pass too. And you'll have a hard time again. That's the 100% guarantee in life is that we will have hard times come through where things are great. And when things are great, they'll go back to bad. And it's just the cycle of life. Keep perspective through both of those is what I think that would be the most important to think through. So that's during the dark times. What was the second part of the question?
Well, you might have answered it. It's how to stay humble.
Yes.
I don't know if you have anything to add, but it feels like you have this sense of gratitude that's kind of anchored that probably keeps you in check. But please add anything
I
that you
would
might
say
want to add.
this. I would say, you know, you can't tell someone like I was telling you just a bit ago, like, I'm so humble. Can't say that. Or I'm so charitable. It's like, or I'm so empathetic. Those are all verbs. They're not words you can say and you can't put it on your CV or on your LinkedIn. I'm Andrew Smith and I'm so empathetic and charitable. And like, if you do that, you're a complete idiot. Those are things that you have to put in action, right? And so I think that for me, if you live it, it's easier to live it over and over again. And I think that starting, honestly, not with just humility, which humility is important, but empathy is probably one that will just dovetail into humility and charity. I think you have to be empathetic. And empathetic is I am willing to do anything that anybody does in my business at any given time. And if I do, and I actually do it, not for show, not for a picture, go and do it so people know you actually care about them at all levels of the business, from the dishwasher up to the CEO of my brands. People will go, I like that person. I'm going to follow them. And for you as the leader, it's very easy for me to go into a restaurant that we own right now. I could go to a different restaurant where none of my team members in the store will know me because I'm not known. Their leader is, right? They know their leader. But me walking in there, introducing myself to them, they're like, oh, geez, like you own all of this. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, how can I help? Or I'm walking around and picking up crap in the dining room because it's dirty and, taking garbage out or wiping down a window or whatever. It's my restaurant along with them. So it's like, I care just like you do. And if they see that, they're like, holy crap, that guy can do that, which means I should be doing that. And it's not for show. It's because I actually think that way. I think like an operator. I think like I'm no better than anybody in here and it all matters. All the details matter. So in any business you're in, I don't care what it is, make sure that you put yourself in the shoes of all of the employees at all levels and know that none of them, you're not better than any of them. None of them are expendable and they don't matter. They all matter, period.
And I'm sure that that example just kind of bleeds into the culture naturally, and they just observe you, and there's just this love, and everyone works, and it's inspiring. What I learned from your story, and I could be wrong here, but you got to a point at Neaters where you had like 42 to 50 stores, and then
It's 50 of them.
the economy, like, you're starting to scale so fast that I think in one podcast you said things started becoming wobbly. Can you walk through like how the transition from scaling that, navigating that kind of wobbly time to then like selling and get into Savory?
Yeah, I would say that this is true in every business. That's why I think all the listeners should hear this. This is not restaurants. When I was in tech, it was the same way. Also sit on the board of companies that are outside of Savory in consumer and packaged good companies, industrial companies, manufacturing companies. I have investments in so many different spaces, and I sit on boards and I work with founders of all those companies. These are universal truths. I think that when you look at any business, if you double in size to triple in size, 1 to 3 million, 3 to 9, 9 to 24, it doesn't matter what your jump is. When you triple the size of your business, everything you thought, your systems, your people, your processes were going to work, they break. They always break. And it's because we can only see so far down the road past our nose to know what to plan for, right? So because of that, we all make mistakes. We make investments, we hire people, and then we get to a point where we're like, why can't I punch through to the next size? Well, because we're broken. We don't have the right people, we don't have the right process, we don't use the same right systems to scale. So any system you are in, or any business, any vertical, that is a universal truth. So even for us, we got to the point where we were over 5 restaurants. We went to 15. It's like, oh my gosh, we're breaking. And then 15 to 40. It was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna bust. Even going from 40 to 50, I thought we were gonna break. Then we did 87 Little Caesars down south. 87. We were the fourth largest franchisee in the whole Little Caesar system. And we had a whole team down there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a huge operation down there too. And things are breaking left and right there. It's very natural. It's very normal. All I would say is every time that it's breaking, look as far as you can down the road to say, what if we were 3 times the size of this or 5 times the size of this? What decisions would we make today to make sure that that's a little easier? And so when people come into Savory and they work with us, they say, well, we're looking for capital to grow. One of the main reasons people want to work with Savory, I believe, and I've heard now from founders after we do our transaction, is just the know-how, right? It's not just the money. Money is money. It's all green. You can get it from anywhere. Our money is pretty good because it comes with a playbook of, well, you don't want to make that decision, Brian, because if you do that, you're going to have to replace that and start over when you're twice the size or 3 times the size. That's not scalable. Let's
Yeah.
think about 50 to 100 units when we're that big. And let's start making those decisions today. And we'll miss some of those potholes just to make it a little smoother. We're still going to hit potholes. They don't have to be so deep and they don't have to be so damaging to us. And that's where founders are like, that's brilliant. Okay, that's what I need. I need help because I've never been down that road before. And since I've been down it a dozen times more in this industry, now we can share that. So all I would say is when you get wobbly, welcome to the world of being normal. That's very normal. But then second to that is start trying to see a little further down the road or get advisors around you that have scaled to a size you've never been that you're shooting for. Get an advisor, get a friend, put them on your board of advisors. If you don't have a board, create one and get people that you trust. Give them a little something as far as equity in your business. They'll pay for themselves and have them help you figure out how to navigate some of that growth pain. Because unless you've done it, you haven't done it. So a founder's like, I don't need Brian and Andrew. They don't know what they're talking about anyway. I got it. I'm like, have you ever driven down that road? No. So how the hell do you know what it's going to be like? Let us help you. But that's what a founder should be willing to just say, I want the help, not be forced into the help.
Well, I love that. Obviously, in my life, I've been super blessed with mentors, and it sounds like you have too. And now you get to kind of give back. I'm curious, when you and your wife made the decision to start Savory, what was it like raising capital for that first fund, knowing there are these, what I'm learning today, fallacies in the restaurant world? How hard was it to raise capital for your first fund? And then once you had the funds to go deploy, how how do you look at restaurants that you want to bring on into that fund that you're confident your investors will benefit from?
Yeah, those are all great questions, and I could spend an hour on each, but I'm going to clip note it by this. So, first fund to raise, I raised it from people that had known me, had seen me, knew my career, knew my reputation. So, you usually go to the places where the water flows a little easier. And I go to them and say, Brian, you and I have known each other for 15 years. You see that I do not give up and I will find a way all the time. Here's the strategy. This is why I don't think it's going to be as risky for you as you think. And it's because I'm an operator. I'm not just an investor. So I wake up in the morning thinking about how am I going to make all of my brands create value for you as my investor? And when I would tell investors that, they're like, yeah, those are the types of people I want to invest into because too many other people I invest into and they just spray my money out and hope that one of them work. And I'm like, no, I will pick them and I'll run them. I'll run them with the founder and their teams and we'll get alpha out of those deals. So raising the first fund, not as hard as the second fund. Second fund was actually really quick, but we were in the middle of COVID. So we raised $100 million in the middle of COVID, bought 2 more brands, hired 1,000 people and added 15 more restaurants. So it was an incredible time for us because our team just crushed it. Fund 3 right now, fund 3 has been harder than the last 2 funds combined. And the reason why is not because of our progress or our momentum or our success of the last 2 funds, because the world is a pretty difficult place right now because investors aren't getting returns on their investments that they made between 2019 and 2024. So because they're not getting returns, they're like, we don't know where to put the excess capital we have, and we're not getting any of our capital back. So people are just limited on cash. So we are finding the pools of cash where they still have plenty of cash. There's always cash out there, but just the types of investors we're going after has shifted. We've had a successful fundraise. We're going to fundraise until the end of Q1 and we're done. And it's been successful already. So I'm very blessed that we've had this much support so far. But it's not always easy. Even if you have success, you still always have to prove yourself. The fallacy about the restaurant industry, it's always going to be a fallacy because we just all have it. But once I actually give the proof, the data points, and actually show the results, people are like, wait a second. I feel like I've been lied to all this time. I'm like, exactly. I was too. So usually I can get over it when I can sit down with people and explain how it's all broken down. And it's essentially this too. I'll tell you the story that I tell people, Ryan, and you'll kind of laugh at this, but I'll say, Brian, if you had a technology company and you were in an office building that was off the beaten path, if you failed, you turn off the lights to your business and you walk out of the building, you go home and say, I guess I got to go get a job. And no one knows. But if I have a restaurant on Main Street in Logan and it was Andrew's Burgers, Andrew's Burgers, Andrew's Burgers, and then all of a sudden you see Andrew's Burger sign come off, the place go dark, and the sign go on and say for lease, you and everyone else driving down Main Street go, oh, there's a restaurant, just failed. See, they all fail. Because it's in our face, because we see it, because we have a connection emotionally to it. That's why we believe that they all fail. But if you're in an industrial park and you have a CPG product or you're making socks and you go out of business, no one knows.
I love that analogy or that correlation. So as far as the brands, you've got some awesome brands. I think you helped obviously scale Swig and Mobetta's and Houston's hot chicken. I mean, I don't know. I'm really interested on the retail side as far as the real estate side. It's kind of coupled, right? How do you end up why Swig? Why not another dirty soda? And is it how do you look at the founder versus the operations? And then how do you decide, okay, are we going to go scale Swig in Arizona? Are we going to go to Cali? Are we going to go to the Midwest? How do you think about corners and growth of populations? Because that's what I do and we do every day. And I'm guessing the fundamentals are the same when we go and buy real estate, right? I don't
Yeah.
know.
So let's start with brands. We evaluate about 300 brands nationwide a year, and we pick 2. So we're extremely, extremely picky, and for good reason. I mean, we're investing on behalf of our shareholders and our investors, and I am an investor too. I want to invest like it's all my own money. So when we pick a brand, the founder is a big deal. It's a huge deal for us because we don't allow the founder to just go retire. We want the founder still involved. We believe that the founder is the magic, the heart and soul of a brand when you're 5 to 15 units, and we help them at Savory to scale to 50 plus units. During that time of growth as an emerging brand in a region, the founder matters. Like you feel it, you know that they're involved. But when you are Chipotle, Brian, you don't care, and neither do your family or I, that Steve Ells is still the founder. You don't even know who Steve Ells is. I do, but I don't go there because of Steve Ells. So I think that what you have to realize is when you're emerging, it matters. So we want to find founder first brands where it's like they care, they want to build a legacy, and it's not a lifestyle business. So when I meet with a founder, the first thing I say is, Brian, is this a lifestyle business for you, or are you trying to create a legacy out of your brand? Because if it's a lifestyle business, that is just fine. If you want to clock out at 2 in the afternoon, you want to check in with your team and that's it, and go fish and go on vacations with your family, I support that. I love that. God bless you. Right?
Yeah.
But if you want to build a legacy brand, you need to re-up when we come in, because it's going to be a lot of work to get from the 5 units you are today, or the 10 units, 15 units you are today, to 50, 60, and then 100 and 200. It's just a new challenge. It's a new structure, and we know how to do it, but we're not going to do it for you, and we're not going to do it alone. It is a partnership. We're doing it together. That weeds out a lot of people already, because they're like, well, I kind of want to just you to do everything. It's like, that's just not what we do. We'll do it with you, but we need you to lead it, and we'll support it. That's number one. Number two, you gotta, I mean, we have a no a-hole policy. I mean, Brian, we all do in life. I mean, if you're okay to deal with an asshole, you're probably an asshole yourself. But for us, it's already so hard. You can't work with people that are difficult. So if we see the difficulty flags, or you know what? When you go talk to team members when you're doing diligence, and you're like, hey, how's it working for Brian? They're like, he's a tyrant. He comes in and yells at us all the time. It's like, it's pretty easy because they just tell you. So we want to work with people where it's like Mo Betta's, Kimo and Kalani Mack, where everyone just revered him. They loved him. I'm like, well, why do you love him? They're just so down to earth and so humble, and they care about us, and they're empathetic, and they have integrity. And once you hear that, you're like, those are the people you want to work with, right? So once that's out of the way, then you start looking at, what do consumers want? What American patrons want? And regardless of what anybody thinks that's listening to this, we all want ubiquity. We want pizza. We want chicken. We want burgers. We want bowls with rice and salad in it. We want salads. We want all of the stuff that I'm talking about. Those are the things we eat no matter what, habitually. I want habitual brands. And if you think, well, it's not habitual that I eat pizza, I'm like, well, how often do you eat pizza? Twice a month. Every American does. That's pretty habitual, right? You eat it once every 10 years, it's not habitual. So we go for habitual and ubiquity. We do not do desserts. We do not do things that are just sweets, ice cream shops, yogurt, cookies. I don't just do cookie shops. Why? Because they're super cool. And then the next cool thing comes in, and I have no loyalty to that, and I don't need to eat it. I
Yeah.
don't wake up in the morning going, man, I can't wait to go eat a 4-pound tub of ice cream today. You're just not going to do that every day. You're going to do it on a date. You're going to do it with your kids when you're out having fun on a vacation, but you don't have to do it. We want to go for brands that you have to. So then once you figure that out, then you say, in chicken right now, what are the trends? Not fads. What is the trend? Well, we watched hot chicken growing for 8 years. Every year, the market size was getting bigger and bigger because people were liking the flavor profile. After that much time, we're like, now it's a trend. It's not a fad. And then we start looking for the best brands in that. And we reach out to those founders in that brand segment, and we find the best one we can.
I appreciate you kind of sharing your due diligence process. I want to be cognizant of time.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say I've got a couple questions, but
We have time. Go ahead and ask whatever you want at the end here.
I want to ask two questions. What are you most grateful for in your life? And what are you most excited about in life right now?
I think for me, the most excited I'm 50 years old now. I've got adult boys. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is seeing my little dudes that are men now become men, their own business owners, starting their careers, getting married, kicking off their life. Like, I just love seeing what you think about when you're a young parent. It's now coming to fruition. And I wake up and I think about my boys and my daughter-in-law, number one. I don't think about work and everything. It's probably secondary. When I say my morning prayers, I'm thankful for my family and my kids and our health, number one. I'm very happy for the people I get to work with on a daily basis, number two. And number three, really, really like the businesses that I'm involved in, right? And what we're doing for those founders. I like helping these founders grow their businesses and hit different levels and benchmarks of dreams they have. It's a drive for me. But the thing I'm most excited about is family, where they're at in their lives and where we're at in our lives. But I'm also really excited about the next generation. I give as much time as I can to entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship courses in colleges and universities all across the country, especially here in Utah. And even here in our office, we had one of our executives come in the other day and say, Andrew, I've been with you 10 years. 10 years is how long he's been with me. And he's like, I think it's time for me to go out and try this entrepreneurial thing. I want to start my own taco shop. And I said, I love it. I think you need to do it. And let's talk through how to do it. And let's make sure you avoid this. And I will help you. I'll give you money if you want. I'll support you. And he's like, no, 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 I got it. I got it. But I really appreciate it. I'm just so driven to see people try things, be entrepreneurs, and the next generation of business owners and young adults that they have a little bit of a head start. I did not. I had to figure this all out myself. I did not have mentors. I did not have really a place to go to get advice. And so for me, I'm really excited about the opportunity to have now multiple cycles under my belt and try to pass that on to the younger generation. It's what I'm going to do for the next 10 years.
Well, cool, man. I really appreciate your time, and I hope the listeners feel like I do. Like you're way bigger than Savory Fund. You're way bigger than these exits. Like you're a father, you're a loyal husband, and you're just a kind, humble, hardworking guy. And I think we need more of that. And so I think I'm 37. I've got 4 kids. I've got a lot of aspirations. And so I just appreciate your time, man. And I'm going to cheer you on, and hopefully we can continue to, have a relationship. But thank you for your time, man. And God bless you. And you're just a good dude.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for listening to the GM show. I hope you really enjoyed the conversation that I had with Andrew Smith. There's so many takeaways from this conversation. He's just an amazing human, and I hope that you were inspired and learned something new today. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I hope that you can subscribe and get a lot of value from this particular podcast. I really appreciate the support, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. This is your host, Brian Green.